All right. Hello and welcome to first of several of Warrior tutorial videos. Previously, I ran a channel called I was Henzai Suru, which is omnipresent in Japanese because I did a lot of agility classes, mainly monks. But now I'm trying to kind of push in more towards warrior tanking and um, use yield a few years of expertise on tanking, especially with warriors, to kind of dust this off and help some of the newer players and really give people a good warm and fuzzy for how it's supposed to go, and some tips, tricks, some things you didn't think of, and some higher level gameplay. All right, so let's get into it. So first thing I want to start with is just overall the interface that I have here, why, and just start there, and then work into some macros and things of that nature. So as far as the add-ons that I roll, it's probably easier when represented here. All right, so Auctionator will give you the ability to uh, look at any given item and see what the auction value is for it, vendor value, stuff like that. Just make sure you're updating that every time you go to the auction house, so you get those updated prices. Um, Bulo layer allows you to see what map layer you're on. Um, and then when you request a layer, you know that you actually changed layers. Um, Really good for farming. Um, Character stats classic. For me, that's an essential one where you'll be able to actually see all of your different stats at will as if it's Burning Crusade. So whereas in the conventional interface, you can't see your crit chance, here, your crit, your hit, etc. All right. Gather Mate 2, as you can see on my mini map, shows me exactly every place that I've mined so far, or, herbalism, whatever your fancy is. Um, it'll show up on the map and it'll show what it was. Some of these will change, but usually it's just um, like tin has a chance of becoming silver, and iron has a chance of becoming gold. But other than that, it stays consistent. Uh, see, Loss of Control Announcer is really good as a tank. Basically, what it'll do is if I'm putting any kind of CC, it'll throw in the chat under /say, hey, I've been disarmed for 8 seconds. Hey, I've been stunned for 3 seconds, stuff like that. So the rest of your party knows how to react. Mixed scrolling battle text is what I use as both kind of like my scrolling battle text interface, but even more importantly, when we go into it, um, that one will be uh, pretty essential for me when I'm doing stance dancing and whatnot to know when my overpower and execute are ready to go. So like, let's say for example, I'm fighting in defensive stance, and then I get an overpower proc, it'll notify me because of the way that I have it set up. So it'll, the conditions are if my target dodges, basically, it'll pop up, and then the exceptions to the trigger if it's on cooldown or cooldown less than 2 seconds, etc. And then same thing for revenge, execute. Just a really good add-on, especially when trying to master stance dancing and get your notifications. Um, Nova World buffs. This is another thing that ties into layering and doing all of that. Um, let's see, pawn. It allows me to compare two items and get exact percentages of upgrades. So I'll just put, like, for example, let's say Thermoplug's arm, right, compared to Whirlwind Axe, and it'll tell me exactly that it's an upgrade and by how much. So it takes a lot of the guesswork out of it, especially on the more convoluted stats and things of that nature. All right. Uh, Plater, essential is a tank. So basically, it just changes your nameplates, and it'll show you exactly when you have aggro, when you don't, and then just an overall better interface for that. I'll show you how that works in a little bit. Simple raid target icons. Basically, it allows me to put target icons. I just hold down shift or hold down control, and then it pops up this little wheel, and I can just select like so. All right, Questy, everyone knows that, self-explanatory. Classic cast bars, that way I can see my enemy's cast bar and get off those interrupts as needed. Bag add-on, just quality of life. Okay, so those are the add-ons that I run. The macros that I run. So these, as a warrior, your bread and butter is macros. That is just how it is. Hate to say it, but you're gonna need to get familiar with these, and I'd highly recommend using all of these if you really want a more fluid play. So first and foremost, first one's going to end up being show tooltip battle stance. Make sure show tooltip is all lowercase. If you do a capital S, it won't work. And your best bet to get the abilities right and the items right is to just shift click it straight from your spell book or from your bag. So like when I'm writing this code, I would do /equip and then space and then shift click and then it'll just populate like that. Or if I want to do an ability, it'll just be /cast space shift click berserker stance. And that's basically how you do macros successfully. Make sure that they're not written sideways. Make sure they're written vertically. So that way it's just in order, it executes from top to bottom. So first one is going to be show tooltip battle stance. That means that when I mouse over this right here, you see it on the bottom right there, and it looks exactly like a normal ability. So my mantra on macros is I don't want to know they're a macro when I'm using it. I think it's usually too cluttered, and that's what usually annoys people besides actually writing the line of code. So I want it to look exactly like the same ability. So I give it the same picture. So it would just be new. I would look for the picture. So it'd be right here. And then I would do here underscore and then OK. And then I would write my line of code as such. All right, so delete that one. So show tooltip, the ability you want it to appear as under on the bottom right there. Then /cast battle stance. So /cast what you want to cast, and then /equip whirlwind axe. So your macros are going to need to be updated as you update your weapons. So just make sure you get, good weapons that'll last you a good long while, so you're not constantly having to update these things. The next one is going to be show tooltip defensive stance. So as I mouse over this macro, shows defensive stance as if it's a regular ability. I use underscore just as a placeholder. Then it'll be /cast defensive stance. Then equip bearded bronze axe and replacement guardian. So when I have these two macros, so this one and this one, both set up correctly, what that allows me to do is simply stance dance. So 1 through 12 is my main bar. I use a Razer Naga, so I got my 12 buttons on the side. All right. So 1 through 12 for my regular essential bar. The next bar is basically kind of like the stuff that I react fairly quickly to and is useful for all stances or things that I can pop back and forth with between the stances. And then finally I keep my cooldowns, and then I keep the stuff that's a little bit longer duration and things of that nature here at the bottom. So this is regular 1 through 12, this is shift 1 through 12, this is control 1 through 12. The other add-on I run also, I just noticed it didn't show up before, Z-Pearl to get these kind of interfaces, and then Bartender for this, where it went over Plater, went over Deathlog, Atlas Loot, etc. Atlas Loot, good quality of life, shows you the loot of all dungeons. Okay, so also on my, because I custom made this stance bar, this is not Blizzard's stance bar, so when I go into Bartender, basically, I just made a custom bar right here, and then I shrunk it down. So I've got that rigged up to Alt-1, Alt-2, and Alt-3. So when I do Battle Stance, the macro, it looks like a regular ability. I just hold down Alt, Alt-2, and it auto stances into defensive stance and equips the sword and board. Reason this is important is if you were to try and do this conventionally, this would take a lot, it takes a lot of time out of the conventional stance dancing. So you can either do this one of two ways normally. Either I would have to go into defensive stance and then equip a sword and board out of my bag, or I could make a macro that just equips my sword and board separately, but then I'm wasting time. You could also do the same thing with, let's say, Berserker Stance. If I wanted to do like let's say a dual wield in Berserker Stance, and my two-hander in Battle Stance and sword and board in defensive, you can also do that. Dual wielding. The dual wield macro is going to be a little bit different. Because instead of naming just straight up equip, it has to be equip slot 16 and 17. All right, so it has to look like this. For your main hand, your offhand. Reason being, if you don't do this, what will end up happening is when I go from dual wield, when I go from sword and board to dual wield, it will not prioritize the offhand. If I just put equip and then the name of the offhand, it will prioritize your shield. So you'll be stuck with the sword and board even though you intended a dual wield. So so that's this macro essentially would be your dual wield macro, and this is what I would use if I wanted to dual wield in Berserker stance or whatever other stance that I wanted. Okay, so those are those core stance macros. The next one, very similar. It's just the one for Berserker stance. Just cast Berserker stance and then whatever weapon you want to use in it. All right, the next one is going to be charge. Show tooltip charge, cast battle stance, and then cast charge, because I can't technically charge from Berserker stance, right? Although right now I'm in Berserker stance, so technically I shouldn't be able to. I would have to switch over. However, because this is my macro, I can just do, well, it's better illustrated from defensive stance because it switches my weapon. So from here, if I wanted to charge, I would just do shift 1 and nothing else. And it automatically does it for me because I have it rigged up this way. Make sense? Cool. All right. So same principle. Show tooltip intercept, cast Berserker stance, equip Whirlwind Axe, cast intercept. So this right here does the same thing that I just showed you, just for intercept. So if I get more than 10 rage, and I'm in battle stance, and this is blacked out, I can still intercept straight from battle stance. And it'll auto-equip, even if I'm doing sword and board, it'll auto-equip my axe right there. All right, the next thing is this macro is extremely powerful. So this in combination with the mixed scrolling battle text notification I showed you. So I'll be in Berserker stance, just smashing away. The second that they dodge, it'll send me a notification saying to overpower the target. And because of this macro, it's a one-stop shop, smash their face into the ground. I don't have to do anything special, just simply, I see it, I can react. Same thing goes for execute. Like you could do rig it up to where execute could cast from defensive stance if you wanted. Same kind of principle, just casting intra stance. Really no overpower procs, but you'll get the idea as we go through it. We went through that. Same thing, Berserker Rage here. Basically, it's a stance dancing Berserker Rage, so you just use it as needed, and it'll automatically put you in it. So, same thing there. Switch to Berserker. Let's see if we can get an overpower proc. See, right there, notified, and I can cast it direct from Berserker stance. So I don't have to worry about anything. I've got to worry about stance dancing, and it's one button press in place of two to, depending if you're going from dual wield to two-hand, 2 to 3 button presses. So it saves you a lot of time and economy, which is super important as a warrior. Next, we have retaliation. So you can, with this macro, you can retaliate from any stance. So if I'm in defensive stance and I hit right now, if I were to hit Control 6, because of this macro, I would equip my Whirlwind Axe and then just go to town on my targets, because it would just throw me in that battle stance and enable everything. Um, Same thing with this macro is probably the best defensive macro in the game, um, without uh, um, without protection tree abilities, just because of the fact that instead of having to jumble over, equip my shield, switch to defensive, and then I can use my ability, it's just a one-stop shop damage mitigation in the middle of your oh shit moment where you really don't want to be fumbling with anything. And then that's that would be all of these. Once I get a mount, this will be the mount that, or this will be the macro for charging off of your mount. Um, so the big problem is you got to like right click off of your mount and then hit charge, and it's just a tremendous waste of time and it's very annoying. So this macro will ensure you just jump off your horse and go. Um, these are three ones that I use in groups. So just a simple ready check, just make sure you're a leader and then you can run a ready check. This one basically just letting people know my rules and guidelines. Contrary to popular belief, people appreciate that. People really do feel like it gives them a good sense of confidence and it gives them a good sense of structure up front when everything's so high stakes. So basically, I let hunters know and warlocks know, hey, you can use your pets, just no taunt. And then also, if we go to any tier or any leveling areas, please dismiss. Stay behind me at all times because this one gets people really jacked up. Um, if there's somebody who's lower level that's in front of me and I'm tanking and then they pull, now I've got to spend taunt. Now I've got to spend aggro generating abilities. And then I have to generate about 20% more aggro than I would have if I were able to initially generate that aggro, because to pull aggro off of a target takes about a 30 or 20% bump in that aggro table to be able to pull off. So you're already starting on the back foot, and now you're 10 seconds on your taunt cooldown because you had to use it. So behind at all times. Uh, Rule number three, just the simple guidelines, especially as you get into these more, new players and whatnot, of what the most common marking scheme is, and what to really look for. For us older veterans, that ends up looking fairly standard, but people don't know what standard is as new players. So skull, focus, X off target, sheep, moon, shackle, star, fear, sap, diamond, trap, square, and then if there's a patrol, I'll usually throw a triangle on it. Um, in the event you have aggro, come to me for a taunt. Wait at least 3 seconds before using AoE abilities, so that way, you don't have instant blizzard, you don't have instant multi-shot, you don't have any of this shilly-shally that just ends up yanking aggro off you, and then again, you got to overcome that 20% threshold. You only have one taunt per 10 seconds. You don't need that. And then don't use Sunder or Expose Armor, because if they have a higher rank than you, you're not going to be able to Sunder through that, or they're going to, if they have the same rank Sunder as you, they'll already be like 3 Sunder stacks on it, and then you can only get 2 in there. And so no bueno, no bueno. And then just have fun with it. So those are pretty much all my macros. All right, so we've gotten an interface. We've done interface. We've done macros. We've done add-ons. We've done, let's see. Okay, so let's get into, we've gone into a little bit of stance dancing. So let's go into stance dance, or let's go into threat generating abilities. All right, so threat generating abilities for a warrior. Contrary to popular belief, heroic strike is ranked third, all right, in aggro generation. So rank 1 is going to be revenge, all right, generates about 300 aggro, and it's flat because it's like flat damage. And then it does, I think, yeah, it's flat aggro, so flat 300. Sunder armor does, I believe it's a flat 250, like 200, 250 aggro. So it comes in second place. and then Heroic Strike generates 150 aggro plus the damage that it does. So plus 58, it still puts it behind your Sunder. All right. So in order of importance, it goes Revenge, Sunder, and then Heroic Strike if you've got nothing else. All right. Or if you really need to generate, because of my build, it's slightly less rage than Sunder is. All right. So if I really need to pop something off, I can. All right. So first, let me show you what that ends up looking like. So charge in. I'm going to end up immediately stance dancing to defensive stance. I'm going to throw in a Sunder. I'm going to tab to the next target, Sunder, and then I'm going to use Shield Block, which triggers Revenge, proc that off, and then make sure Demoralizing Shout is on all targets, and then maybe throw in a Rend for good measure, and then from there, just focus sundering my targets. And you can, as you saw from my notification, you can throw overpowers from that defensive stance. So fast, it looks like not bad. Shield block, another revenge, demo shout. Another tip, if you use revenge, it will not proc off the overpower because they share a cooldown. Alright? So it's an or situation. So if I'm soloing, I'm going to probably not use the revenge and prioritize waiting for the overpower to come up. But if I'm in a group, I will just pretty much stick with revenge. Okay, now that we got that out of the way, let me go into talents. So late game, it's gonna go deep protection, obviously, just because that is what it is. That's what you're gonna need in order to survive the, challenging encounters and all of that. More armor, more HP, so more defense, so you get things can't crit you at endgame. Defense, contrary to popular belief, or at least what logically makes sense on paper, defense is not something you're going to want to run when you're low level. Just when you're high level or damn near 60 is when it starts to become useful to get you that crit immunity. Short of that, though, don't go defense. Your main stats are going to be strength and stamina. Strength and stamina. So pretty much everything I have is of the bear. Alright? Pretty much everything. Alright, so, but all the way up until endgame, the build that I'm running is going to be Shallow Arms, Deep Fury. Reason being, if you look at these talents here, in this section in Deep Arms, the pattern you're going to see is that essentially you pick a weapon and you specialize in said weapon. Well, what weapon does everybody pick? Because obviously Whirlwind Axe is meta, and then Bonebiter's meta, and then so on and so forth. And then the one that drops off, the one in Moradin, off a Rot Grip, Gatorbite Axe becomes meta. So you end up with a trend of axes for a good long while are king, right? So what is that? That's 5% crit, all right? So that means this entire section, except for this PvP talent, is going to be 5% crit. Plus Mortal Strike, plus Sweeping Strikes. Sweeping Strikes is really, it's solid. It really is solid, but in dungeons, you're going to end up pulling off your tank a whole lot with it. And then Mortal Strike, same thing, just generates buku amount of aggro, does a ton of damage, but, it's good. It's really good, but it's okay. Like, for all of this, we're talking, 12 points worth of investment. Uh, eh, that's a lot of points for not a lot, honestly. So to replace this, I'm going over here and getting that 5% general crit so that I have versatility of whatever weapon that is better. I don't have to commit to an axe. I don't have to commit to a sword. I don't have to commit to anything. I can just have that flat 5% regardless of what I do. All right. So I got everything I need here. So what I have here is 2 in Heroic Strike because you basically need 2 points either here or here, and then it just made sense to throw them here because 2 points of parry, I mean, it's okay, but it's eh. Improve rend. This tree right here is essential. You need all three of these. So you need this basically to get this. This is essential because your bread and butter is critting. Um, and then from here, again, bread and butter is critting. Interesting part about deep wounds is 60% of your melee weapon average over 12 seconds. And so that means that the average between 154 and 102, all right, over 12 seconds. Um, so that's not going to stack on itself. It's just going to refresh every time that it comes up. So it'll be um, whatever that is. For me, it's like around 35 damage per tick or so, like 30, 35. Um, let's say it gets down to uh, like 6 seconds. It's just going to refresh back to 12. It's not going to stack the extra damage on top to make a stronger tick. So basically, the name of the game for this is just keep it on your target, which means you want to crit every 12 seconds, basically. Um, so this increases your crit damage by 20%, not chance. Um, my bread and butter here, these three basically are my biggest quality of life improvement that I find essential personally. So this one, in combination with the rest of my build, puts me at 13% crit plus 50%. That we're talking 63% crit chance on every overpower. I just smash things straight into the ground every time that they dodge me. It's brutal. Um, Improved charge, I put 1 point in here because until later in the game, um, your charge gives you 12 points, 12 points of rage, right? So if I put 1 point here, that puts me at 15 rage, okay? So that's important for multiple reasons. What's 15 rage? Well, 15 rage is the threshold you need to open up your options, all right? 15 rage is one of these, assuming you don't have this. 15 rage is one of these. 15 rage is a block and a revenge. 15 rage, it's your entire frontline skill kit, basically. So it's important that you hit that 15 rage threshold um, so that you can really just immediately charge in, and even if you miss your first hit, you still have a good go. Tactical mastery, I max out on that because stance dancing, like I said, is an essential part of being a competent warrior. And being able to transfer over with 25 rage is really clutch. Um, Especially as you're wielding two-handers and just generating a lot of rage per hit, you're gonna get your money's worth out of that. Um, Okay. The reason I do 18 here instead of just throwing in the like 1, 2 right here is because let's compare 2 points here compared to 2 points in Fury. All right. 2 points here buys you 3 extra rage on your charge, and it buys you a 30% delay in your in your rage decay out of combat, right? Or, or in Fury, because this is off the beaten path, off of the essential path, it buys you 10 rage. So the math on that basically goes, is this ability worth 7 rage? I don't think so. I really don't think so with the decay, what it is. Especially if you're going off of something passive compared to a second active cooldown that's only a 30-second cooldown as compared to a 1 minute cooldown. So this is 10 rage plus 10 over 10 seconds on a 1 minute, and then this becomes 10 rage immediately on a 30-second cooldown. That's amazing. So, hands down, I'm going this instead. Okay, so down this tree, basically, I was thinking Unbridled Wrath, but the more that I've tested it and the more research I've done, it's utter garbage. Please don't take it. Why? Okay, extra rage. That makes sense. 8% chance per point to generate 1 point of rage. One. That means if you have any flexibility, if you want to use a two-hander or anything like that, anything other than a very fast dagger dual wield or fist weapon dual wield makes this talent useless. Because 1 point of rage per hit, chance on. No, not worth. So demo shout. So if you look here, if I take this target, I look at my demo shout, 69, right? So it says reduces their attack power by 69. Demo shout my target. Reduces melee attack power by 64. All right. So that would be 5 points. So each one of these is 5 points of extra attack power reduction. So that puts us at 25 attack power reduction at this level, which really is pretty nice. I go up by 86, they go down by 25. So immediately, just from your two shouts, you end up with a really nice rebalance of the stats between you and your enemies. And then this is AoE, so you get to do that, especially as you're tanking all these dungeons. That's just raw damage reduction for every target that's meleeing you. So I would consider that a defensive cooldown, honestly. Or not even a cooldown, but a regular defensive. Um, Okay, and then as I'm going down here, what I'm going to end up picking is I'm going to go 3 into Blood Craze because, as I said, I love tanking. And so what I'm going to end up doing is as I'm tanking and I'm starting to get crit and whatnot because I'm not defense capped because it's not end game, 3% of a tank's health over 6 seconds every single time you get crit is significant heals. I mean, that right there is a Troll's Blood Potion and then some. Like it's significant heals. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm gonna put 1 in Piercing Howl for economy of life because it's the equivalent of applying a hamstring to everything around you for the same rage cost. Worth it. Then that leaves me with 1 more point. I'm gonna put 1 in Improved Battle Shout because that's also good economy of life, and I'm not going to be cleaving very often. Like I said, I'm a tank. Then from there, I'm going to go full in rage. So these 5 points here. I'm gonna go Death Wish. Improved Slam is all. Slam in general is all but useless. I don't even put it on my bar anywhere. I don't bother with it. Slam's basically just utterly worthless. In subsequent expansions, it becomes useful because they double the amount that it reduces the cast time. In here, don't take it. Don't put it on your bar. Not worth it. Just not. Unless you have like Pendulum of Doom, and then you have 5 points in this. It's not worth it. Okay, then I'm going to put 5 points in Flurry, 2 points in Berserker Rage, and then Bloodthirst. And that should finish my overall build that I'm going for all the way to late game. As we discussed with stats, it's just going to be a whole lot of stam strength gear, and then you're going to want a nice slow weapon. Slow, okay, the reason you want slow instead of a fast weapon is because it's centered around abilities that force attacks. So a slow weapon or a fast weapon goes really well with Heroic Strike, all right, because it happens on your next attack. However, a slow weapon goes really nice with Overpower. And as we discussed, this build here is a nasty Overpower build. So basically, if I have a slow weapon, I'm forcing the attack on 102 to 154 damage, and then I have a 63% chance to crit with it. It's stupid. It's utterly stupid. I smash things straight through the floor. Let's see if I can get a proc on it. All right. And then, okay, as far as items that we're going to be rolling, you probably want your typical potions. You're going to want your defensive potions. I know they're expensive, but it is what it is. You're going to want your strength potions. You're going to want your, bobbing apples, because right now in the season, it's a free stamina buff. For, save your money. And then this item is slept on. So it is 15 minutes. All right, so it's on par with your food buff, and it's 10 stamina, and it's fairly affordable. If I remember right, it's only about 10 silver, and it's Rumsey Rum Dark. I feel like there is a flaw in the translation on that one, but 'tis what it is. But that's 10 stamina in your pocket, and it stacks with food buff. Do it. I mean, it's hands down worth it to keep around. The other things that I run, some swiftness potions, some free action potions, um, max out your first aid, progress your engineering as much as possible. Recombobulator is basically having a health stone as a trinket. It has 10 charge or 5 charges per. You can have 2, so that's 10 charges total. Um, and then obviously health pots and all of that. And then iron grenades are also probably one of the best grenades, other than, I mean, arcane against casters, because of the fact that you can do a nice little cast and move here, and it gets you that 3-second stun. It says stun, but I'm pretty sure it counts as a like a gouge. It counts as a gouge, not a stun. Because your attacks will break it. Your bleeds will also break it, things of that nature. So you can use it strategically against casters and things of that nature, or just if you need that little extra bump up. Okay, so we've gone over all the essentials. So let's go over how to tank properly, and how to really gather up aggro on multiple targets. So let's go into the Cave of Infinite Happiness. Start and show. Alright, so overpower 415, and I cast it from Berserker stance without any additional anything. Ooh, free shinies, yay! I like shinies. Alright, what else? Oh, the absolutely essential goat of your Batman utility belt, honestly, is gonna be target dummies. It really, I've been saved countless amounts of times from target dummies. I've lost count. It's over 20 times I've been saved by dummies. Um, highly recommend. All right, so basically, let me see if I can get enough mobs in here. I guess someone's been clearing stuff out. So you've got a few different ways of successfully pulling targets as a tank. All right, so if there is any question that you going in may pull a pack, don't do it. Just don't do it. Don't take the chance. Don't take the risk. There is no point. Plain and simple, don't do it. So what you're going to do instead is you're going to shoot whatever ranged weapon you have, and just ensure before you join any dungeons that you have enough ammo to support it, because, I mean, if you don't, then you're going to be a little bit SOL. Alright, so if we're doing high skill cap plays, alright, so let's say, for example, I got 3 targets lined up there, right? I know this one's melee, this one's melee, this one's caster, alright? So I know 2 things here. I know, 1, that I'm going to get hit fairly hard because I'm going up against 3 targets at once, alright? I know that, or non-caster, but it's ranged. Okay, in the back. Alright, I know that that third target is going to try and maintain range, and it's not going to come up on me, so that means that I can't range it down. It also means that I can't charge in on the back one, because that means the front one will aggro. Alright, so a few different issues at play here. So what I want to do is I want to charge in to generate that 15 aggro. Then that's going to open me up to the ability to use the rest of my kit. I'm going to immediately stance into Berserker stance, so that, and I'll still maintain, not aggro, rage. I'll still maintain those rage points that I got off of the charge in the initial hit. So I'll be able to collect the second one and intercept the third, and then I'll be able to stance into defensive stance. And then just start taking hits, basically. So what that ends up looking like is charge in on target 1, put a bleed on him, do that to them, stance to 2, switch to protection. Alright, and then just start getting the blocks off. If I notice I'm not doing as much damage as I want to, I can pop an offensive and just go to town on these two. Overpower, massive crit, murder, force his attack, and just continue just murder. If I didn't have retaliation, I probably would have opted to focus them down one by one, and then from there, throw an iron grenade on the back line. All right. So I will continue these tutorial videos and pretty much show you guys exactly how to tank and spank and really do your best. So basically, I'm just trying to tie all this goodie together and just show you how to tank multiple targets successfully and actually hold threat. All right, so we're going to charge in and generate that initial threat. We're going to immediately go to defensive stance. I'm going to go to the next target. I'm going to get Sunders, tab, Sunder, tab, and then Berserker, charge in, defensive. I would have gotten the taunt off right there. Now I'm in defensive. I still maintain my raise, my aggro, tab, Sunder, tab, Sunder. Right now I know they're rooted. This is another trick to mitigate damage. If I know I still have threat and they're rooted or they're slowed, I can move away and just keep an eye to make sure that you still have threat. So if I see them root this target, I can just walk away, and then I mitigate all of that damage. So I usually get about either 2 Sunders or 1 Sunder, shield block, revenge. Alright. Bandage. Alright. Spaced out targets. I'm gonna go charge. Switch that up. Revenge. Tab. Block. Revenge. Tab. Sunder. Get my Berserker Rage. Go back to protection. Or defensive stance. Tab. Sunder. Block. Get Demo Shout up. And just go like this. Okay. Right. Health pot, recombobulator, basically restart the fight, block, Demo Shout. If even now things get a little bit too hot, you still got that target dummy. And then the other thing you got is you still have your fear. Shit really hits the fan. So this is like super oh shit moment. And I know there's a guy chilling right here. And dropped combat. And that's probably about as close of a call as I get, just with absolutely all my other options on cooldown, and then, but you're still able to keep some of the other stuff in reserve. And then get saved by all your potions, grenades, etc. But that's basically how to generate threat, and Lord knows I pissed enough of them off. Alrighty. Thank you.